You know what? When I started off hairdressing, or first of all, when I left school, I didn't even know I wanted to be a hairdresser. I remember my very first job was working in a music shop. I played the piano since I was 7 years old. And so I started working in a music shop and I loved it. I used to demonstrate all the keyboards, the pianos and everything like that. And it was really a lot of fun. And then from there, I managed to find a job which I thought was really amazing, to be a merchandise I would do window dressing and merchandising for a large department store. And I was trained under the most incredible lady called Nesta Andrews, and she trained me to become a in-store sort of merchandise display artist, which I absolutely loved. And then one day I was passing a friend's salon who I didn't realise was one of the top salons in New Zealand. And I potted in there one day and I asked her, I said, is there a course I can do where I can learn how to do long hair for my mannequins in the shop window? Because I needed to dress their hair. And I was also getting involved in theatre a little bit, so I wanted to work backstage. And she said to me, she said, oh, I'll find out. So she spoke to her manager, who was the boss of the salon, the owner of the salon, who was one of New Zealand's top hairdressers. I didn't know this. The next day I got a telephone call, well actually no, that evening I got a telephone call saying, would I mind going along and having a meeting with a lady called Lindsay Loveridge? So after work I went along, and Lindsay, as I walked in the door, she said, Patrick, I've been following your work. I love the windows you do. I love all the things you've been doing. I've been following what you've been doing for the last couple of years. I'd like to offer you an apprenticeship. I didn't even know what a roller was for. I knew nothing. And so I thought, wow, this lady's going to give me an opportunity. I spoke to my mum and dad my dad thought I was crazy because I was doing so well at my window dressing and my merchandising, and it was going very, very well. As I say, I just picked up a few awards. And one of the things that struck me more than anything, and I think it was really deep, a resounding feeling, was, hold on, if I can get a trade, that's got to be a good thing. Oh, it was a very different industry when I joined it. So can you imagine, Boy George had just come onto the scene. We had Wham, we had Spandau Ballet, the new wave romantic was out. So I would turn up to work with shoulder pads and jewels at my neck and the whole thing. I'd super glue in hair pieces so that I could have dreadlocks like Boy George, you know, and plaits and braids and ribbons. And so it was an incredibly creative time. To all people that are looking at hairdressing, let's just be honest here. Hairdressing is a multi-billion pound industry. Yeah, it's massive. There are opportunities in hairdressing that will enable you to fly if that's what you want. Hairdressing is one of the very few industries that has such a close contact to people. And if you're a people's person, this is quite an incredible industry to belong to. And it's also an incredibly forgiving industry and a very supportive industry. And the reason I say this is in two ways. Number one, you know, you've got to learn your craft without question. But once you've learned that craft, you can go from salon, you could work in a salon, you might want to go freelance, you might want to do magazine work, editorial work, you might want to work on television, in movies. You may want to get on a cruise liner and travel the world doing hair in the salons. There are so many opportunities open to you as to where you can take your career. And the reason I say it's forgiving is because you can also leave the industry. You can go out, you can have another career, you could have a family. There are so many things that you can do, and then you can come back, and we will welcome you back. You can come back into the industry, retrain again, and start again. So I find it an incredibly sort of giving industry of being able to really get the most out of it that you would want. I must tell you a story. So when I started, I never forget my friend who's become my mentor, Lindsay Loveridge, who trained me. She said to me, Patrick, show me what you can do with the hair. And I had a mannequin head. And so I said, oh, okay. So I grabbed the mannequin head, I stuck it between my two legs, and I started working on the hair like this, and I was turning it round and I was doing things. At the end, I gave her a great result. She enjoyed it. She said, that looks great. She said, now, Should we learn how to do it properly? And I remember that. I remember, and I think I use that even today. When a lot of people are learning, sometimes it's much easier to learn A, B, C, D in a right way than learning on an emotional way where you might go A, B, Q, D, so you're out of sequence. So I learned at a very young age, when you are learning, it's much easier to learn in sequence, and it's much easier to learn when you have a great technique. Because a lot of younger hairdressers, when they start out, it's not only learning the technical skill, but you've also got to learn about who you are as a person. Do you value yourself? Are you a good person? Are you the sort of person that can relate to other people? And then you have to learn, above all, how you communicate to other people. How do you come across? How can you encourage someone to come on your journey of creativity? So there's a lot that you're learning. So I'd say to young hairdressers, it's not just a physicality you're going to learn, it's an emotion you're going to learn as well. And I think to be a great hairdresser, you've got to be an all-rounder. You've got to understand the principles of things. So much now, in our industry, we can fraction off. We can be a colorist. I'm a long hair artist. You could be a cutter. There's so many things that you can do. But I think to have a healthy understanding, you need to understand the whole aspect of what the industry is all about. To be truly creative, you've got to understand your emotions. You've got to understand where you come from. And I think for me, hairdressing enabled me to become a much more social creature, as someone who really appreciated others. Because to appreciate yourself, you've got to appreciate others. It's not all about you, it's got to be about other people as well. And so that really helped me round my personality a lot more, being able to sort of be more intuitive about people's needs. You've really got to understand people. If you don't like people, could you imagine how rubbish you would be as a hairdresser if you didn't like people? You've got to learn from your environment again, as I say. So you start to learn about people's emotions, people's insecurities, people's strengths, so that you can make sure that when you're giving a client a great service, you're giving it to them as an individual. And that's what people want now. And I think more so now with social media and the way that technology is such a strong part in our world, I think more than ever, it's important that a person feels they're being seen. I've been seen. I've gone to the salon. Oh my God, they see me. They see me. They see what I want. They see my foibles. They see my strengths. They see the positives, the negatives. And I feel like I'm empowered having something done that's special. Because at the end of the day, as a hairdresser, our main job is to make people feel amazing.